At shortstop, number 2, Derek Jeter, number 2.
My dream growing up was to be a Major League Baseball player and to play for the New York Yankees.
There are a few things with the New York Yankees that never change. That's pride, it's tradition, and most of all, we have the greatest fans in the world.
Baseball is a very humbling sport. You know, you can be on top 1 minute, on the bottom the next. So I think you have to learn to take things in stride and keep an even keel. Ever since my first game in Seattle, it's just been a lot of memories here. I've been spoiled and fortunate when it comes to being a part of a lot of special moments. To top it all off, you couldn't have written a better script.
And welcome to a special at-home edition of MLB Tonight, presented by Camping World. Matt Vasgersian from the home studios. Same for Harold Reynolds, joining us courtesy of NTT Home Plate Cam. And our weekend-long celebration, Harold, of Derek Jeter is underway. All weekend long, airing some of his classic moments, classic games, interviews with and about the Yankee captain and Hall of Famer. It's going to be a fun weekend.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You know, it's fun to look back on Derek's career. I met him in 95, but I got to know him in 96. The winter of 96, he decided to have a baseball clinic in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and had asked me if I'd come and MC it and work the clinic with him. It ended up being, Matt, about 5 inches of snow. It snowed all day long, but they packed the gym with kids. I'll never forget freezing my tail off in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and going, what in the world is going on? What's this young rookie thinking about? He's going to start a foundation. Well, years later, he sent thousands of kids to school. The foundation has been a big staple of who he is, and really, he's been the same person ever since. It's been pretty cool to see him grow and learn and continue to be the man he is today.
You mentioned 1995, and some might ask, why are we doing a Derek Jeter celebration now? Well, it was on Friday, May 29th, that he made his Major League debut back in 1995. It marks the anniversary this weekend. Kind of a pedestrian day defensively, 0 for 5 at the plate. His first Major League game it was not in pinstripes. It was on the road in the Yankee Grays in Seattle. But we know about what Derek Jeter has accomplished since that day. Went on to win the AL Rookie of the Year the following season, and his career was well underway toward Cooperstown. Over 3,400 career hits, number 6 on the all-time list. The Gold Gloves, the World Series rings, the hardware, and the Hall of Fame vote as he was elected into the Hall for 2020 and received almost 100% of the vote in his first year. Well, very few people have had an opportunity to get to know Derek Jeter like Joe Torre has. So from one Hall of Famer to another, it's our pleasure to welcome Joe to our Derek Jeter celebration. Joe, at what point for you and your relationship with Derek did it go from, this is a pretty nice player, to, wow, this is a generational superstar that I'm managing?
Yeah, I tell you, it happened in the first year in '96, Matt. When we started spring training, I tell you, in spring training, I thought we had something special because he had a horrible spring for us. And yet, every day he was the same guy. He never showed any kind of strain or stress. The fact that, he was getting the shortstop job and, you'd think that would come with a lot of, just a lot of stress, but I never saw that. And even though there was chatter at the end of spring training about, maybe he's not quite ready, he came as the same guy every day and, did what he could. It wasn't very good, but once the season started, it was like showtime.
Joe, you really stuck your neck out for Derek. And I know you know him real well, and I've got to know him through the years. But he talks about only one time, really, where you kind of had to scold him. And it was a play where he didn't cover the base. And he came back and sat down next to you, and you said, get your head out of you-know-what. And that was it. So take us through that story.
Well, that was spring training, actually. That was spring training. Actually, he was Well, I'll tell you, there were two different instances, but the one in spring training where he didn't cover and he was on deck, and without asking him to turn around, I said, "Yeah, get your head out of your rump," and enough said. And then during the season, at first season in '96, second half of the year, we were in Chicago playing the White Sox, and he was at second base, 2 out, top of the 8th inning. I'm not sure if the score was tied or we were 1 run down, but he's at second base and there are 2 out, and Cecil Fielder's the hitter, and he tried to steal third base, and you know what that, you better make it with 2 out, and he was out. And needless to say, he didn't come back in the dugout because they had to take his glove out for him to play the bottom of the 8th. And I'm throwing, I had a clipboard in my hand for some reason, I don't know, and I threw that. And I was really mad at myself, Harold, because, I just took it for granted by that time that I could leave him on his own and he would always do the right thing. But I remember saying to Zim, I said, I'm not going to talk to him. We have a close game. I said, I'm not going to talk to him until, either after the game or tomorrow. And so after the bottom of the 8th inning and the White Sox went down, he came in, and where probably 9 out of 10 guys would go to the end of the dugout and get a drink of water and just sit down, he came over and squeezed himself between Zimmer and I. And I just slapped him in the back of the head. I said, "Get out of here." That just basically told me he knew he screwed up, and I'm here to take my medicine.
Kind of in that vein, Joe, Don Mattingly has talked about, from a teammate's perspective, the fact that one of the more underreported elements of Derek as a player was his toughness. Did you feel like that as well from a manager's standpoint?
Yeah, as I said, man, I sensed that in spring training, that he never really pushed the panic button at all, especially the fact that he knew he was getting this opportunity to play shortstop. And, at that time we had Tony Fernandez, who, obviously was established, and, but he never showed that. But his toughness, basically, he went out there and played every day, and he gave you everything he had. And, when you use the 2020 lens, you realize that he wasn't afraid to fail. He was going to give you everything he had. If it wasn't good enough, he was going to come back tomorrow and try to do it again.
Joe, you were the perfect guy for that group of players. You had some really star players. Obviously, we're centering on Derek. But I want to go back to the summer of '71. Matt, listen to these numbers of the National League MVP, Joe Torre. All right? He had 363, 24 homers, 137 RBIs, and had 230 hits in 161 games. So I say all that because it's hard to manage superstars. But when you have the credentials you had, did guys ever come and talk to you about, how do I maintain it, Joe? How do I stay on top? Because they obviously knew your resume.
I never tried to come on strong. I probably did more talking to Bernie Williams than anybody else. He was a switch hitter, and I gave him some tips that I thought would help him. Because right-handed, he was so strong that he always tried to pull the ball, especially when he got in a situation where he was ahead in the count. And we talked about it, and I talked about hitting the ball through the middle. But the only one that really made reference to my playing days, I have to go to John Kruk, believe it or not. John Kruk come by me one time. I think I was managing the Cardinals, and he said to me, you were a pretty good hitter. And that was the only reference anybody ever made to my playing days. And but the guys. When I did have a tip for someone or some advice for someone, I guess it was just to listen to the manager, and you have to respect what he says, and you may not do what he asked you to, but you have to show respect. And I always got that, with all the clubs, but with the Yankees, I never I don't think they paid more attention to me because I was I was a pretty good hitter.
Joe, we sure appreciate the time and helping us kick off our weekend-long celebration of Derek Jeter. Thanks for the visit. We hope to see you at a ballpark soon.
Oh, that would be nice, Matt. I look forward to it.
Saturday, all-time games presented by Doosan gets into the spirit of Derek Jeter weekend, starting with his MVP performance in the 2000 All-Star Game at 10 Eastern, and ending with the World Series game, Game 4 in 2001, for which he was nicknamed Mr. November at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Derek Jeter weekend rolls on, and our celebration continues on MLB Tonight. Yeah, he celebrated championships on the field. He has been celebrated for the last 2+ decades. Bob Costas with his thoughts next.
Setting up for Jeter again, isn't it? And here we go.
Number 2, Derek Jeter.
A base hit to right. Here comes Richardson. They're waving at home. He scores. The idea of how special this moment is not lost on anybody in this ballpark.
By providing commentary before and after a lot of these memorable moments, and Bob joins us now. It's a super unfair question, Bob, to ask because you saw so much of this over his career. Is there one Derek Jeter moment that really distinguishes itself for you?
Well, you said it in the question, Matt. Most Hall of Fame players have 1 or 2 signature moments. Derek has Hall of Fame numbers, but it just seemed that his sense of theater, obviously he was on a team that was getting to the big stage almost every year or at least close to it. So that adds to the possibilities, but he had so many of them. We've selected 13 here, including his first couple of big league hits, his first major league homer. But after you get past that, it's all big moments on the big stage. And maybe if I had to pick one, it's a defensive play. It's the flip play against Oakland when they appear to be on the verge of elimination. They're down 2-0. The A's had won the first 2 games at Yankee Stadium. Now they come back to Oakland to play 2. It's a 1-0 game in the 7th. It looks like Jeremy Giambi's going to score the tying run on the ball Terrence Long hit down the line. Shane Spencer airmails the throw back to the infield over Tino Martinez's head. What the heck is Derek Jeter doing where he was except an innate sense of how a play unfolds? Wayne Gretzky said to me once, I don't chase the puck. I go to where I think the puck is going to be. And that's how I was able to score so many goals and come up with so many assists. Bill Russell said that about rebounding. You don't go after the ball. You position yourself where you think the ball is going to be. Well, that was a Derek Jeter moment, his sense of awareness on that play. I've never seen that play before or since. I don't know about you, Harold, or you, Matt, but I've never seen a play like that before or since.
No, it was a pretty amazing play, no doubt about it. But, Bob, I want to ask you about Billy Crystal, all these big guys that hung out around all the time that you rubbed shoulders with. But you think back to Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, Joe DiMaggio, those guys in New York, in and out of that town. I think Derek's star became bigger than life because of Saturday Night Live and his connection with those guys off the field. What are your thoughts when it comes to off the field?
Well, that had something to do with it, for sure, being in New York and somehow being a man about town, but never winding up on page 6 of the New York Post in a negative way. He was a bachelor, handsome guy, superstar, had the appropriate social life, but never seemed to wind up in any sort of unfortunate publicity. He just had a way about him. His presence was almost as important to his stardom as the performances themselves.
Bob, I want to ask you about one particular game that you were in the booth for that's on Derek's resume as being one of the ones that we're covering here on the network. It's known as the Jeffrey Mayer game, right? And it's the 96 postseason. It's the beginnings of the Core 4 dynasty years. So, I don't know if years later your sense for that night has changed at all, but I'll ask you, where are you now with that game in terms of the importance to Derek's career and the team, the Core 4 years?
Well, they had won the division series, but this is his first LCS. He had 48 at-bats in 95. He wasn't on the postseason roster. He's still technically a rookie entering 96, and he would be the Rookie of the Year. But that is his first truly big postseason moment, and he seldom needed help during his career, but he got help in that situation. The fly ball to right field, Tony Tarasco had just come in as a defensive replacement. I guess you guys are going to take a look at it, and he's underneath the ball, and Jeffrey Mayer reaches out, and that's clearly interference, fan interference. Richie Garcia is right there, 6 umpires, but there's no replay review at that point. That is an easy reversal. It's not even remotely controversial. And even then, with the naked eye, if Richie saw it that way, he's empowered to call Derek out. But instead, he says it's a home run. It was the bottom of the 8th. That ties the game. And then Bernie Williams won it with a completely home run beyond in extra innings off Randy Myers, and the Yankees go on to win the series and the pennant in 5 games.
Your thought process calling that, Bob, was very similar to my thought process 2 years later on my couch watching Game 1 of the World Series when that same Richie Garcia called a belt-high fastball right down the middle of the plate to Tino Martinez for ball 3. And then a big swing later, and the Yankees were on their way to a resounding World Series triumph. Is there one of those Yankee postseason memories or teams that you feel might be, I don't know, even better than the others? Because right now the dream.
You guys are killing Richie Garcia. You're killing Richie.
Sorry. Dream Bracket 2 is going on right now, and the '98 Yankees seem to hold up as the litmus test. Do you agree with that?
Well, they won 114 games that year, and they zipped through the postseason. They swept the Padres in the World Series. I mean, that call, Mark Langston didn't get the call, and then Tino Martinez hit a grand slam home run, and your Padre connections came to the fore with you being upset with Langston not getting strike 3. But the way they played that regular season, and the way they blitzed through the playoffs, a great Cleveland Indian team that came so close so many times in 95 and 97, they were the only team that really challenged them. The Yankees swept the Rangers in the division series 3 straight, but the Indians took them to 6 hard-fought games. That was the only time they were challenged. And after they got by Cleveland, then they swept the Padres. Subsequently, 3 years later, the Mariners won 116, which is the best mark in a 162-game season. But the Yankees took care of them somehow in 5 games. A Yankee team that didn't have a regular season record even close to that good took care of them in 5 games in the LCS, so that weakens the Mariners' claim. So you can make a very strong case for that 1998 Yankee team. Among the 4 that won World Series for Joe Torre, that was the best one.
All right, Bob, I'm going to put you on the spot. Bring us home with this. Is Derek Jeter on the Mount Rushmore of Yankees? And if not, who's on that mountain?
That is so hard, because if we're going with the Mount Rushmore configuration, there's only 4 presidents on Mount Rushmore. And so before Derek Jeter ever draws breath on this planet, let alone dons a Yankee uniform, you got Ruth, you got Gehrig, you got DiMaggio, and I certainly ain't kicking Mickey Mantle off Mount Rushmore. So there's 4. So that leaves Whitey Ford out. It leaves Derek Jeter out. It leaves Joe Torre and Reggie Jackson out. That's just the way it is. If they want to add a 5th, if they're going to put a 5th president up there someday, if they're going to put a 5th Yankee up there, and we're confining it to position players, I say Jeter goes up there.
Plenty of mountains in the Dakotas. We'll find another mountain to put Derek Jeter on, another Mount Rushmore. Hey, Bob, we appreciate your help, certainly, in helping us celebrate Derek Jeter's career, not only tonight for this show, but all weekend long. We can't.
Hey, play ball fans, I'm Derek Jeter. I'm here to talk to these kids about what it means to be a big leaguer.
Absolutely one of the classiest players that I've ever seen in my 7 decades.
I think if I was going to emulate a guy, it might be Derek Jeter.
When I was on the flight over here, I was thinking, okay, what would I tell myself if I was sitting here in your shoes? And what I would say is just understand that your career goes by very, very quickly. I was fortunate. I was drafted when I was 17. I signed the day after my 18th birthday. I played 23 seasons in the Yankee organization, parts of 20 in New York.
at the major league level, and it goes by very, very quickly.
Derek Jeter comes through in the clutch. What a player. Derek Jeter, what a player.
Before you know it, it's over with. And one thing I didn't want to do is look back when my career was over with saying, I wish I would have worked harder. I wish I would have done some things differently. So get the most out of your career that you possibly can.
3,000 hits. 5-time World Series champion.
I had a lot of success when I was in high school, and then when I signed professional baseball, I was completely overmatched. Completely overmatched. I'll be the first one to tell you. I hit 202 my rookie ball, and I was hot the last 3 weeks to get it over 200. My first full season in Greensboro, I made 56 errors, and I had a great second half. So I was on pace for about 85, 90 errors that year. So dealing with adversity for the first time, but I think that makes you stronger. But it is difficult. It is difficult because you're going from playing the best players not only in your city, your state, your country, you're playing the best players against the best players in the world. So everyone in here is talented, right? Everyone in here is not going to make it. That's just how it goes. You talk about what the separators are. Working hard, being accountable.
This guy can do everything. He just does things to help win games.
Self-evaluation, I think, in my mind, is one of the most difficult things, one of the most difficult exercises for people to go through in any profession, but it's the most important. I mean, you have to look in the mirror every day, before every season, after every season, and say, how can I get better? And pay attention to your competition. In my mind, competition eliminates complacency. Pay attention. You have to constantly push yourself to be better.
Yesterday when I saw him for the first time, where did I find him? He was in the cage.
I wasn't superstitious, but I had a routine that I went through every single day. And, you talk about people that have routines. It's not how many swings you take. It's making sure that you take the right swings, right? You want to make sure that every time you're in the cage, every swing that you take, you're getting something out of it. It's all about the preparation. If I didn't hit in the cage, if I didn't take batting practice, I felt like I was unprepared. My biggest fear in life and anything I do is being unprepared. I think a lot of times you talk to athletes in different sports and they say the game slows down. Right? I think the game slows down by being prepared.
Derek Jeter has always been about the moment, the big moment. He owns the moment. The stage gets too big. It overwhelms some people. It does not overwhelm Derek Jeter.
I was always a firm believer there's a lot of people that may have a lot more talent, but no one's going to outwork me. People just think you wake up and you're successful, but that's not the case. You got to work at it.
Derek Jeter, where fantasy becomes reality.
And it's Bernie Williams, bottom of the 11th.
And here's a drive to left. It's mighty high. It's mighty far. And good night.
It'll be a 3-2.
That ball is high. It is far. It is gone. Bernie goes boom. Burn, baby, burn.
Burn, baby, burn. And what was that like, Bernie? When they would say that at Yankee Stadium, you see that up there on the sign. I just remember the whole stadium going, burn, baby, burn.
Yeah, I think that was the thing that John Sterling, our radio, broadcaster, came up with. He, every time somebody hit a home run, he was famous, still famous for coming out with names and, like little monikers, to celebrate a home run for a certain player. And I think I might have been the first one. I think he started with Burn, Baby, Burn. And then he just kind of took off, and then I couldn't shake it off, man. And then we had a song for it too, back in the 70s. So that became kind of like my theme music for like the second half of my career. But hey, I can't complain about it, man.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Remember me for that, so.
Cool. Well, hey, obviously, thank you for joining us just to talk about Derek here for a little bit. Obviously, 95, you were in center field when they were playing that series against the Yankees and against the Mariners, and you got a chance to come up wild card. You were playing center already. And then 96, his rookie year. But 96, you guys win the World Series. When did you really feel like, hey, we got confidence in this young shortstop? You got a rookie shortstop. You guys have been to the playoffs before. You're a World Series team. When did you feel like, okay, we got confidence in this kid? Was there a game or anything that turned it that way?
Well, I think it was just during the course of the year. I mean, you got to remember that before him, I mean, we had a pretty good shortstop, even though his career was in a little bit of a decline. Tony Fernandez. I mean, perennial all-star, and he was, probably one of the best that ever played the position in his generation. And apparently, we decided to move in a different direction, and then bringing, a rookie coming into the season to fill a premier position in one of the, high, profile cities in baseball, and giving him that much of a responsibility to take in. That was a lot of big shoes to fill. But he took it all in stride. I think he had this sort of adjustment period that he started creating his persona as a player. And from the very beginning, he was a person that obviously a hard worker, but the fact that nothing really faced him. I mean, he was a rookie, and he had the responsibility to play shortstop for the Yankees in that season. And it didn't seem like anything like, faced him. I mean, he would strike out, he would have a bad game, and he would just remain quiet. He wasn't really mad. And then the next day he would just, vindicate himself. He had a good week, and then, a couple of days bad. And he was like that big, up and down thing that he was able to take in stride. And that was basically his career, man. He never really complained. He never made any excuses. He came out to the field every day, and he wanted to play. I mean, he wanted the big situation to come in his hands. He wanted to be the determining factor in the game. And he never really talked about it, but we all knew he wanted that spotlight. And more times than not, he was able to perform.
So you've known Derek a lot of years. I've known him a number of years, but I think I found his kryptonite. And that's where we're going to finish this interview with you on, because you're the perfect guy. You've transformed your life after baseball to a premier musician worldwide. And I just got to think, I'm thinking back to Bernie Williams playing on the buses, hanging out and everything else. And I can hear a little squeaky voice in the background thinking he can sing. And that's Derek Jeter. So the kryptonite is, can he sing or can he not?
Well, he can sing great for a baseball player. That's going to be my response. But I think, in those times, it wasn't really about how good he could sing. I think it was more about the camaraderie and him giving me an opportunity to play my guitar in the back of the plane, the back of the bus when everybody wanted to sleep. It was like, he would look back at me and say, "Hey, we're trying to sleep here, man. Let's do this." But when, once in a while, when he was in a good mood, he would bust out his a little falsetto, and he would sing maybe a little bit of Lionel Richie, or a little bit, a little soul, a little R&B, and those times were great, man. And I really remember them. And even though he couldn't sing that well, I mean, he was trying to connect. And I really appreciated that.
That's awesome, Bernie. Hey, Bernie, we're proud of you. Love listening to you. Continue on with great success in the music world, and I'm sure that it's going to be as great as your baseball career. So we appreciate you joining us on this Derek Jeter weekend. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you so much, man. Always a pleasure.
Derek got his first hit on May 30th of 1995. 17 years later, we stand at the precipice of history.
When you look back at him trying to get his 3,000th hit, all the attention was on him, and that was something he didn't like. This is a very humble guy that all he wanted to do was play baseball and win championships.
There is a palpable tension here at the ballpark, and when Derek comes up, this place will get very loud.
Everybody that was involved with the Rays was in the dugout at that time because you want to see part of history.
2,999 hits for Derek Jeter, trying to become the first Yankee to ever get 3,000.
We played together. It was 1993, Greensboro, North Carolina. He was just so talented as a 19-year-old kid.
He's right there, right on the precipice of history, and this place will be up for grabs.
To say that we knew he was going to have 3,000 hits, I don't think any of us knew that, but I realized that he was really special.
The place is alive. Everybody's standing.
All of the Rays, all of the Yankees on the top step of the dugout, and everybody wants to get a good look. That one's drilled deep to left field. See ya! 3,000! History with an exclamation point!
It was very dramatic because he did it a home run to left field, and his best buddy was out there, Jorge Posada, to meet him.
Oh, what a way to join the 3,000
You knew it was going to be in grand fashion, and to be part of a special moment with someone that you had known for 20 plus years, it's one of the coolest things I've been part of on the baseball field.
It's great to be part of history. I was there actually when Cal Ripken broke the record in Baltimore several years, but you love to see personal achievement, accomplishment, but at your expense it's always a little difficult. But there's certain moments that you could get beyond that. Cal was one, and of course Derek was another. David Price pitching, and you just knew the moment he hit the ball, it was out, and that was going to be 3,000. I'm a big Derek fan. He knows that. I've spoken to him often. I love the way he played the game, and it was typified by the way he ran to first base. I mean, I'm big on that. And I saw this guy play injured with leg injuries, that he would always give you that 100th down the first base line. I always respected 90. Beyond the, this game's wonderful, but he did little things well. Like even when he ran down to first base, and Harold could appreciate this, he'd always hit the front edge of the bag. The stuff that you talked about your first spring training or instructional league with rookies, he did it as a Hall of Fame player. So tons of respect, and hit that ball well. The attention to detail. Watch on a grounded ball how simple he is when he picks it up. There's no wasted motion. He moved his feet perfectly. He moves his feet in a way that I want to get. Like he replaces his feet. I prefer when an infielder steps in front and not step behind with that right foot. It happens a lot, and it's aggravating to me because it takes the throw offline. It takes your bottom half on line, which puts your shoulder in a bad position too. The only time you step behind is when you go to your backhand side on the deep right, shortstop or third base. But you get guys doing it all the time, and I think that leads to throwing problems. He did it perfectly all the time. He did that. He ran the bases right. I think his clutch hitting. How about staying in right center? I mean, you could pound this guy all day long inside, and he's still going to get inside that pitch somehow. And that's why I thought he was so good in clutch moments, because it was hard to fool him. He's still going to get off his A-hack somehow. So to really appreciate how he played and who he was, if you really don't understand the nuance of the game, sometimes it could get beyond you. But if you do, he played it in a way that absolutely paid attention to detail.
From day one, he has seized the moment. Holy cow! His first home run.
Derek, for 20 years, has been the face of the Yankees.
When you're on Derek's team, you just understand that he's doing what it takes to win.
One of the most unbelievable plays you will ever see.
Still get goosebumps. It's amazing the way he treats his teammates.
Hell, happy time.
That guy is a Hall of Famer because of plays like that.
Flies into the stands.
Reflected to me what Derek was all about. Everything and anything for the team.
Whatever it takes to make a play.
Jeter backhands from the outfield grass. Got him!
When you see that, you appreciate how great of a player he is.
You knew right away that he had something special.
One of his strong suits is just how he plays the game exactly the same every day.
I love what I do. Thank you for helping me feel like a kid for the last 20 years.
The Yankees are champions of baseball.
This is right where it belongs.
He's a great teammate, he's a great friend.
You doing all right?
Doing great, man. It's great for the game of baseball.
Thank you, Mr. Jeter.
Competition brought out the best in him.
Swung on a drill to right field, on the track, at the wall. See ya!
The Yankees have won it.
I remember the roar of the crowd and his parents watching.
He is Mr. November.
World Series game-winning home run, the most exciting baseball I think I ever remember.
For 72 years, Lou Gehrig has been the Yankees' all-time hits leader. Now, it's Derek Jeter.
Has had more hits than anyone in a Yankee uniform.
It was very cool to be able to be there and to witness it.
Derek got his first hit on May 30th of 1995. 17 years later, we stand at the precipice of history. Looking up, see ya, 3,000, history with an exclamation point.
The bigger the game, the bigger Derek will step up.
You can't script this, it's just magical.
Every Yankee has come to hug Derek.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Hey, Derek Jeter, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I said if someone had written a script, I wouldn't have believed it myself. I would have been like, oh, we need to tone it down a little bit.
He's a great baseball player and a great human being.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I got it.
Nothing surprises you about this guy.
Jeter's last game at Yankee Stadium. is a walk-off. If that's not Hollywood, I don't know what is.
Fantasy becomes reality.